It was a hot, bright afternoon in Dubai, and the Dubai Mall, with its gleaming corridors and air conditioning cutting through the desert heat, was particularly busy. The shop windows flaunted luxury items, and tourists from all over the world marveled at what they saw. Among the visitors, walking discreetly, was Sadio Mané. Wearing a black cap, a simple hoodie, and training pants, few would recognize him at first glance. Even so, some gazes turned, a whisper here and there, but he walked on calmly, like someone used to being seen without seeking attention. He was in Dubai for some promotional commitments, but that afternoon was free, and he had decided to walk a bit alone. Sometimes, between interviews and training sessions, he liked to lose himself in anonymity, or what remained of it. He carried a small bag with some religious books he had bought at an Islamic bookstore in the mall. His faith was something he carried like a silent armor. It was then, in the central fountain area of the mall, where children often ran and played under their parents' watchful eyes, that a little girl, no older than 7, approached. Her large brown eyes were filled with a quiet curiosity. She wore a shirt with a giraffe print and light jeans, holding a half-melted ice cream in her left hand. Her mother, a little further back, watched with a slight smile on her face, letting her daughter approach, perhaps thinking he was just another ordinary visitor. "Mister," the little girl said, tilting her head slightly, "are you famous?" Mané smiled, leaning against the railing by the fountain. Her voice was sweet, but there was something different about it, a seriousness that didn't match her age. "Some people say I am. But why? Do you like football?" She shrugged, not very convinced. "My dad watches it. He talked about you the other day, said you played really well, but I wanted to ask something else. Can I?" Sadio crouched a bit, getting to her eye level. He nodded, curious. "Do you believe in God?" The question, thrown out like that without ceremony, cut through the air like an unexpected lightning bolt. Mané blinked, surprised by the bluntness, but felt his heart warm. The mall, the buzz, the surrounding sounds all seemed to fade for a moment. "Yes, I do. I believe very much," he answered gently. The little girl bit her lower lip as if thinking hard before speaking again. "I've been asking a lot of people that. My school teacher said God is different for everyone, but my little brother died not long ago, and I wanted to know if God really exists, because it seems like he didn't help my brother." Mané's throat tightened. This wasn't casual talk. It wasn't just a curious child. It was real pain expressed in small words. He looked into her eyes and saw the confusion of someone trying to understand the world too early. "What's your name?" he asked. "Inez," she replied, almost in a whisper. Mané sat on one of the wooden benches surrounding the fountain and gently patted the spot next to him. Inez sat too, the ice cream now forgotten in her hand. "Inez, I'm going to tell you something that almost no one knows completely, and maybe it will help you understand how I truly came to know God. But it's a bit of a long story. Do you want to hear it?" She nodded, eyes fixed on him. "All right then. Listen closely." He took a deep breath, traveling back in time, far beyond stadiums, long before million-dollar contracts, long before any fame. Back to a small village in Senegal called Bambali, where he was born and raised. "I was just a poor boy like many others. We had no electricity at home, no running water. My father was the village imam, a very wise and humble man. He taught us the Quran, but we barely had anything to eat. Sometimes my mother would divide a plate of rice among 7 people. When it rained too much, our mud house would fall apart. And even then, do you know what we did every night? We thanked God." Inez frowned. "But thank him for what, if everything was so hard?" "Because we were alive, and because God gave us strength to carry on even when we had nothing. I learned to pray while hungry. I learned to smile even without toys. I saw my father pray even when he was sick. One day he got very ill and died, and on that day I asked God, why did he let this happen? Just like you asked about your brother." Inez's eyes glistened. She leaned her head on his arm without even noticing. And what did God say? God doesn't speak with words like people do, Inez, but he answers with paths. From that day on, I promised I would play football as far as I could. I ran barefoot on dirt roads, kicking a sock ball, and every time I thought about giving up, something made me go on. It wasn't just strength, it was faith. The girl was still now, as if she wasn't breathing, absorbing every word. One day, I went to play in a faraway city, and I had no money for the trip. A man gave me a ride without knowing who I was. I slept on the street to be able to try out. And I made it. That man showed up like an angel. That's when I understood that sometimes God works through people's hands. Were you angry at God because your dad died? I was sad. Very sad. But I never stopped believing. Because I understood that God isn't someone who keeps pain from coming. He's the one who holds our hand when the pain arrives. And he held mine. He still does. Inez's eyes were teary now. The tears started falling slowly, silently, streaming down her cheeks. She tried to wipe them with the back of her hand, but they came from deep inside. I miss my brother, she said at last. He was 4. He always asked me to play with him, but sometimes I said no, and now he's not here anymore. Sadio took a handkerchief from his pocket and handed it to her gently. The two sat in silence for a moment. The crowd around them kept walking, as if nothing was happening. But on that bench, between a world-class footballer and a heartbroken little girl, there was a conversation the world couldn't hear, but that the whole sky was listening to. Sadio sat there beside Inez, watching the tears slide down her face without any drama or noise. It was a silent, genuine pain, a pain he knew well. That feeling of emptiness, helplessness, injustice, of wanting to blame someone, even God. He gently wrapped his arm around the girl's back in a discreet, respectful gesture and spoke in a soft voice, as if not to disturb her soul. Inez, I'm a Muslim. She slowly lifted her eyes, curious. Does that mean you believe in Allah? Yes. In Arabic, Allah means God. He's the same God who created everything, who loves everyone. He's not just my God, or only for those who follow my faith. But it was through Islam that I truly came to know him. I talk to him every day, and I thank him for everything I have, even the pain I've felt. She frowned, confused. You thank for the pain? Sadio nodded. Yes, because pain taught me too. It taught me to be humble, to never forget where I came from, to respect those who have less, and to trust in God even when everything seems wrong. Being Muslim taught me to see beauty even in sadness, to remember that everything we lose here is temporary, but what we build with faith, that lasts forever. He looked up as if searching for words in the sky. In Islam, we believe everything that happens has a purpose, that God is just, even when we don't understand. Sometimes something sad happens and we think, why me? Why now? But over time, with patience, God shows us why, and when he doesn't show, he rewards. We believe that if someone dies young, like your brother, and is still pure like a child, they go straight to paradise. Inez's eyes sparkled. She looked at him as if holding fragile hope in her small hands. My brother is with God? Yes, Inez, and in a place better than anywhere here. No pain, no fear. Just joy. He's waiting for you one day with a smile, and he'll thank you for being a sister who loved him, even on the days you didn't play with him. She closed her eyes tightly. When she opened them again, new tears appeared. But now they carried something different. Still pain, yes, but mixed with comfort. She rested her head on Sadio's shoulder, who remained still, offering only presence. You know, Inez, when I was little, my dream was to play football to change my family's life. But after I truly found Islam, I understood it wasn't just about football. It was about serving, about helping those in need. Today, when I earn money, the first thing I do is send it to my village. I built a school there, a hospital, I brought electricity to those who never had it, because my faith taught me that true wealth isn't in what we keep, it's in what we give. And you pray every day? Every day. 5 times. It's like I pause the world for a few minutes just to remember I'm nothing without God. That every step, every breath, every smile, all of it comes from Him. And in those prayers, I always ask for peace, not just for me, but for the world. For those suffering, for those who lost someone, for those who haven't found faith yet. I'll pray for you today. The girl didn't say anything, but her eyes filled up again. She seemed too small for so much pain, but at the same time in that conversation, she seemed to have grown years. Sadio continued, now with a firm gaze, as if he wanted to leave something engraved in her soul. The world will try to distract you from God. It'll promise happiness in shiny things, in expensive stuff, in likes and praise. But none of that lasts. True peace is when you look inside and know you're at peace with God. That even in sadness, you feel He's with you. That's what being Muslim means, knowing everything comes from Him and everything returns to Him. And still, loving life, loving people, doing good always. But what if I don't know how to pray? Sadio smiled. God understands your soul before you say any word. You can talk to Him now if you want. You can just think. You can just cry. He hears it all. It doesn't matter if you're a child, or if you don't know any religion. God listens, and He answers. With love. With silence sometimes, but He answers. She stayed silent, closed her eyes, sat there beside him for a minute that felt like eternity. Inez's mother, a bit farther back, watched it all. Her eyes were teary too. She couldn't hear the words, but she felt the energy. She knew that man, whom she was starting to recognize, was changing something inside her daughter. Sadio looked at Inez again. What do you feel now? She took her time, then replied, calm, and something in my chest. Warm. That's God. He lives in there too, but sometimes pain covers His voice, but He never leaves. Never. She nodded, and the silence between them now wasn't empty. It was full of something greater, invisible, but very real. The mall fountain kept flowing. People passed by. The stores gleamed. The world spun. But on that bench in that child's heart, something had changed deeply. And in Sadio's heart, too. Because he knew he wasn't there by accident. And that was only the middle of the story. Inez was still sitting next to Mané when her mother approached slowly, respecting the invisible bubble that had formed there. Her eyes held a mix of gratitude, surprise, and reverence, like someone witnessing something rare, something divine, and knowing to approach gently. She stopped a few steps away, not interrupting, just letting her daughter know she was near. Sadio glanced at the woman and nodded with a kind smile. Then turned back to Inez, who now played with her fingers, calmer, though her eyes still held the moist shine of someone carrying a lot inside. You know, Inez, there's a verse in the Quran that says, with hardship comes ease, and right after it repeats, with the hardship comes ease. It's no coincidence God said it twice. He wanted us to remember that pain never comes alone. There's always something hidden there, a path, a light, a strength we only find when everything seems dark. And the girl looked at him silently, as if memorizing every syllable. I don't know if I'll become Muslim, she said with childlike honesty, but I want to know more about your God. Sadio smiled tenderly. You don't need to decide anything now. Faith is a road, not a door, and God is never in a rush. He knows each heart. If you search with sincerity, you'll find. And even if you don't understand everything right away, He's already with you. Inez nodded, then looked at her mother, who was now approaching with teary eyes. Did she bother you? The woman asked with a sad, affectionate smile. She's been asking a lot of questions lately, since her little brother, well, you know. Sadio stood up respectfully and shook his head. On the contrary, She gave me the chance to speak from the heart and reminded me why I'm here, in this world. Sometimes, it's not to score goals. It's to sit on a bench with a child and talk about God. The woman smiled, and for a moment, it felt like the three of them shared a deep understanding beyond words. "Thank you," she said, holding her daughter's hand. "You have no idea how much this meant to her. And to me." "May Allah bless you both," said Mané, placing his hand on his chest, "and bring peace to your hearts." Before saying goodbye, Inez pulled something from her shirt pocket, a little beaded bracelet, probably made by her. She stretched out her hand and offered it to him. "It's not pretty, but it's what I have." Sadio crouched again, took the bracelet with both hands as if receiving a precious gift, and put it on his wrist right there. "It's the most beautiful thing I've received today. I'll keep it forever." She smiled, a true smile, the first since she sat next to him. He said goodbye to both and walked toward the exit, but his steps were slower now. Not from tiredness, but because he had left there changed. As he walked, he looked at the bracelet on his wrist. It was simple, the colors crooked, the beads out of order, and yet, to him, it carried more meaning than any trophy he had ever lifted. As he stepped out of the mall, he took a deep breath of the warm afternoon air. The sun was starting to lower, painting the sky with golden hues. It was time for Asr prayer, the second to last of the day. He walked to a quiet corner, over a garden with a view of the city, took off his shoes, laid out a small mat he always carried in his backpack, and knelt down. The same city that minutes earlier had wrapped him in luxury and consumption was now forgotten. Sadio bowed in worship, in silence, in gratitude. While making his supplications, Inez's image came back to his mind. The pain in her eyes, the hard words spoken in such a small voice, and then that smile, the change, the spark. He knew, there on his knees, that the conversation hadn't been a coincidence. God had guided that child to him, and through her, reminded him again of life's greater purpose. When he finished his prayer, he raised his hands to the sky and made one last supplication, his voice trembling. "Allah, guide that little girl, light her heart, give her peace, wisdom, and love. Take care of her mother, and reunite her with her brother in paradise one day. Strengthen my faith. Use me as an instrument of your goodness. Don't let me get lost in the things of this world. May I never forget where I came from and why I'm here." The tears rolled down silently, not from sorrow, but from fullness, from a peace only those who feel it can explain. Later that night, he would return to the hotel and write a message to his sheikh in Senegal. "Today, Allah gave me one of the greatest gifts of my life. It wasn't a goal, it wasn't an award. It was the chance to comfort a small, wounded soul and speak of Him, of our Lord, of mercy, of the promise of paradise. I'm at peace, may Allah accept." And somewhere in an apartment in that immense city, a little girl slept in her mother's arms, a soft smile on her face. For the first time in many nights, she dreamed of her brother. He was laughing, running through a field of flowers, and he said, "I'm okay, Inez, and I love you." She woke up crying, but it was a different kind of cry. It was light, it was warm, it was faith being born. And without knowing it, that child now carried inside her the seed of something eternal. Something that began on a mall bench, between pain and hope, between doubt and faith, between a girl searching for God and a Muslim man who carried his light wherever he went.